What is up, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of Panthers on Tap. I'm your not usual opener here, but we're filling in for a second while Curtis is driving home from a much more important softball game engagement. Bryson's going to give him tons of shit on that during the episode. Bryson, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Wonderful, dude. I'm excited to kind of get back in the groove of things. We were on last week and on again this week. I'm excited. I know we're going strong until the start of the season, so it's always fun to get on here and chop it up with you guys.
Yeah, trying, man, right? Like you got to get back into it, taking like 2 weeks off at a time. You start feeling like you're on like these mini vacays, and then you got summer coming up where there's actual vacays. So we got to really like swing back into things. But let's start off with something, Bryson. You and I were talking about this, man, right when we got into the studio. Zachary Hernandez, shout out to Zachary in here again before we were even in here, and with the super chat to start us off tonight. Zachary Hernandez, $20 super chat. First, cheers. Zachary, appreciate you, man.
Cheers, Zach.
We ain't even talked about what we're drinking or anything. We're just going to get straight into Zach's thing, though, man, because I feel like he earned this, man. Like,
oh, yeah.
He's setting the tone for the night. These next 5 weeks are going to be great content leading up to the season. Fingers crossed, bro. Should the Panthers sign Asante Samuel Jr. or trade for Ramsey? Also, for tonight's theme, who is the best running back in franchise history? Ooh. My vote is D'Angelo. That's a sick question. Bryson, I'm going to let you start here because I need time to fucking think, man.
Yeah, that's not an easy one. I think when you argue like the best player to ever play the position as a Carolina Panther would probably be Christian McCaffrey. Of course, the longevity wasn't there. We would have loved to have him throughout his entire career, but with injuries and the trade that came through eventually for him to go to San Francisco, I think he has a very good argument for that. You're getting me all confused here. But it's hard to argue with D'Angelo. I mean, he was just so consistent for so long and brought a lot of exciting times for us as fans. Him and I won't say anyone else because I just took two. So, I mean, I would say my vote would probably be, like, just speaking off players' ability, would be Christian McCaffrey. But again, I can't argue with D'Angelo if that's your vote.
Yeah, I mean, Christian, I think, is probably the most dynamic, explosive, right? I mean, you talk about like a two-way weapon. He's probably one of the better ones that we've seen in the NFL. I do think that D'Angelo is one of my personal favorites from franchise history. Him and Stu's run together, dude, when, fight or double trouble, thunder, lightning, smash and dash, whatever you want to call it, dude. We're just like, that was one of my favorite pairings. I got a soft spot for Deshaun Foster. Deshaun Foster was one of my favorite players to watch growing up. Like, I just really enjoyed the way that he played the game. I think that I'd have to say Christian McCaffrey's the best. Like, just like from a skill standpoint, probably the best. So, yeah, I think that we're probably pretty close on that. Now, as far as should the Panthers trade for Asante Samuel or sign Asante Samuel or trade for Jaylen Ramsey? All right. So the elephant in the room, Bryson, is the Jaire Alexander thing. Right. I think that has to play like a little part of this. Right. The Panthers obviously have some sort of interest in something with the secondary, or else they wouldn't have even explored that and thought about that possibility. Jaylen Ramsey is going to cost some capital. Right. I'm not sure that that's necessarily a bad thing when you get a player of his caliber that can play different positions too. I think that he could play that cornerback too on the boundary. I think he could play a little bit of free safety if you needed him to. I think he could man the nickel position. I would probably lean Jaylen Ramsey because I think he's a better player than Asante Samuel Jr. But Asante Samuel, you could probably sign him for cheap. If Jaire Alexander's contract was $4 million for a year with $2 million in incentives, Asante Samuel Jr., man, you might be able to get him for like a bag of chili corn cheese Fritos or something like that. Like honestly, man,
he might be making our salary to do this podcast. Ricky,
I'm saying he might just be a couple super chats away, right? While we're talking about this too, we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and bring this guy up here too. You guys might recognize.
Look at him in his little cute little uniform.
What's up?
Is that an Oilers jersey?
That's our team name. We're Quality Oil, the gas station. Oilers. Oh. That's our little
Okay.
I'm sweaty. I'm sweating my ass off. Haven't eaten dinner at all. And we're drinking fucking Bat Boyer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, we haven't got into what we're drinking, so I'll go ahead and start real quick.
There we go.
We talked about that super chat before you got on, Ricky. Zachary was in here before us again, gave us a super chat. So, he's always consistent with that stuff. We really appreciate that. But I'm starting tonight with a beer named after me, Trophy Husband. So it is from Trophy Brewing. I know you guys have heard of it. I think one of you has drinking it before on here. Delicious beer. It's just a wit beer, and it's just very light, very easy to drink. And then on backup, I have one from Boone, North Carolina, called East Boone, from Boonshine Brewing. It's a Pilsner. So just trying to keep it light tonight, nothing too crazy. I have a third one as well. Kind of bought it, and I was thinking of Curse when I bought it because it's like an Oktoberfest beer. It was on clearance, so I was like, fuck it, I'll try it at my local bottle shop. Oktoberfest Pilsner is what it was called. Oktoberfest Pilsner, which I don't think I've ever heard of that combo before. So I was interested. It was on clearance, so it's probably not any good, but it is 5.6%. So if I have to get to a third beer tonight, I know I told you the other night you had to, Ricky, so I was like, I better get a third just in case.
Well, I got 3 too, but my 3 are all the same, and they're all really boring just because I had beer left over from the weekend. I just got good old PBR, Pabst Blue Ribbon tonight.
Can't go wrong with it.
Nah, and it is my favorite little cheap, shitty domestic. I also wanted to bring this up, Curtis, after you do your thing. I got a gripe with Panthers Nation because of how many people don't know what a shower beer is. But Curtis, tell us about your beer first, man.
Yeah, so I went to a wedding a couple of weeks ago. I was telling these guys this, I think last week. Busch Light Apple. It's damn near impossible to find, at least around here. And I had it at the wedding. It was free and it was great. Summer beer. And my wife was looking at like the locator this weekend. She's like, hey, I think they got it right down the street at the gas station. Drove down there. I bought they had 4. I should have bought all 4. They had 4 cases. Me being the Midwestern, I'm like, I'll save one. I'll save one for the folks. I took 3 and left. I should have taken all 4. But dude, I'll tell you what, I don't know. Ricky, I don't know if you've had this. This shit is fucking really good. It's light, obviously.
I've never had it. I don't normally get down with like the apple flavored stuff, but I mean, I don't have a problem with anyone that does. It's just never been my thing.
Yeah, and if you had to compare it to like a Reds, it's definitely more like a beer, and maybe Bryson can vouch for me. I feel like it tastes more like a beer than it does like those appley,
Yeah.
I don't know, ciders, whatever you want to call them.
It definitely does. It's like more like there's apple flavor in it, but it tastes more like an apple was sitting beside of it when they brewed it instead of like the apple being inside of it. So it still has that beer flavor, and it does have the hint of apple as well. I enjoy it a lot. And I know they're releasing this year Busch Light Lime. I saw that online just not too long ago. So like a whole lime flavor Busch Light, which I'm big into lime and beer, so I might give that a shot whenever that drops. But yeah, Busch Light Apple is very good, and I can agree with you, Curtis. You should have bought all 4.
That was a mistake.
Get to a couple comments here too, because we got Zach's because it was the first thing we saw in there, but then Z Nature, he's in here already again too. Going to be a great one tonight, he says. And then he's already in. Look, man, we forgot to even talk about the giveaway at the open of the show. He's already in with 1 entry. Zachary Hernandez is already in with 5 because he's done a super chat of over $5. Any super chat of $5 or more will get you 5 other entries into the giveaway tonight. For the giveaway tonight, we do have the 11x17 art print from Joe Bello of Tetaroa McMillan. And also he threw in a couple of gimme or bonus prizes here with a Seatbelts Worldwide sticker for JC Horn and a Xavier Leggett sticker as well. So all 3 of those things will be gone to the winner tonight. Comment Nalo in the chat. We'll set up a little banner to run down here on the bottom. And any super chat over $5, 5 more entries.
And one thing, because it was such a generous super chat, Curtis, I want you to answer one of the questions that he had was, who is the best running back in Carolina Panthers history?
I think, well, if you consider Christian McCaffrey's career in the NFL entirely, I would probably say him. But if you're solely going off of what happened in Carolina, I would agree. I think DeAngelo Williams was he was actually my first jersey as a fan when I was like 10. Was a massive fan of his. So I would have to go to DeAngelo, but if you're going at the whole scope all around, like even with the 49ers, I would probably go with McCaffrey. I just think he's in the top tier of running backs, honestly, across the league, and just his ability as a receiver as well. So, but yeah, I would go D'Angelo. I would kind of agree with that. What did you guys say?
I think we're all three on the same page. Ricky had mentioned Deshaun Foster. But yeah, I was like Christian McCaffrey's the most talented, but D'Angelo Williams had the longevity and just brought a lot of good times for us fans.
I don't know if you guys cheers, but I appreciate you, Zachary. Very generous of you. Thank you.
Steven Davis is also a guy that I feel like people forget played for the Panthers. Like his career, not necessarily here in Carolina, but his career was a pretty dang good one, man. Pretty full of accolades and stuff. So he's a good
player. Davis, Deshaun Foster. We can't forget about Jonathan Stewart. He was outstanding with D'Angelo. So, I mean, Carolina through the years has had some really good running backs.
We didn't even say Tamaga Biaka-Patuka. I mean, come on. Like, that's, Nick
I do want to – before we we're going to be touching on the grades tonight. And for folks who haven't seen it on Twitter, over the next 5 weeks, we're going to be going from every position group, position by position. We're going to probably do 2 a week, I think. And we're starting with quarterbacks and running backs tonight, and we'll get into that. But I told Ricky and Bryson, I kind of want to do some like day of stuff that has transpired since the last time we talked. And that was an article, actually a newsletter that the Charlotte Observer put out. And Alex Zitlow, Mr. A to Z, as Mike K likes to call him, love that nickname. He had some interesting tidbits about the rookies in here. So I wanted to talk about that because that has not really come to light yet, and it's the first really I saw of it, and there's some things I want to talk to Ricky about that I'm curious about and what he thought of some of the things he said. But he first said that, we'll start with this. So Lathan Ransom is getting mixed in with the ones a lot. So I know that we've seen, some Damani Richardson in there with the ones. I know they've been showing Nick Scott a little bit. We all probably don't want to see him whatsoever. And then Ransom, I know obviously he's a draft pick. I get that, but I think it's an interesting tidbit that it's mini camp and this guy's already getting looks there, which is I thought was telling. So I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts are on that. And if Ricky, you want to start?
Hold on, say that one more time because I was in here setting up this banner. Say your question one more time.
Yeah, no. So Alex Zitlow said that Lathan Ransom is getting mixed in with the ones a lot. So what are your thoughts on that? Are you excited about it? Is that telling of this safety room? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. There's another conversation that goes with this, and it's Cody Alexander has been doing these profiles. Cody Alexander is the owner of Match Quarters, and he works for Field Vision Sports, the Pro Vision Sports thing. It's a really cool analytics tool that's kind of like competing with PFF in a way, if you will. It's got cool visuals and stuff like that. But he's been talking about the NFL. It's a copycat league, right? And Steve Spagnuolo in Kansas City plays a lot of 3 safeties at a time on the field. And what this is telling me here is that Trayvon Merrick is going to be a move around, do it all kind of guy. Like, I don't think they want him to just be the strong safety. I don't think they want him to just be the free safety. They can play a little bit of nickel too. I think that Lathan Ransom is another guy that I think they just really think can do multiple things. I think, man, fans have more of a stigma with Lathan Ransom than the coaching staff seems to have with him. I think fans are really hooked on, hey, look, dude, he's a big hitter. Like this guy, he comes in, he lays the wood. But he does that, but he also has range. It's not like the guy is an unathletic player. He just doesn't have that extremely fluid athleticism and deep range that you saw out of a guy like Malachi Starks that a lot of us liked a lot, right? Those are 2 different kinds of players, but that doesn't mean he can't do it. Damani Richardson getting mixed in there too. It just shows you, I don't think that Damani is necessarily a free safety. I side more on him being a closer to the box or in the box, closer to the line of scrimmage, maybe even a nickel defender, except his being on an island in coverage also isn't exactly something that gives me the warm and fuzzies and make me feel comfortable at night. So I just think that there are literally like all kinds of combinations that they want to explore. And I don't think that another safety is entirely out of the equation either. So it tells me that they're really looking at changing up this defense and that it's not going to be the typical shells that we saw last season here in Carolina.
Yeah, I agree with Ricky's point. I think right now it's just like seeing what you have, right? It's okay. We saw Damani last season, get some starting reps and contribute in a role. Let's see what Lathan does. We just spent a draft pick on him. Let's see what he has in some limited style reps, right? No pads, nothing like that. And I think it was telling in the Blueprint episode when Dan Morgan talked about Lathan's ability to be more of a down the field coverage player and not just a box safety. He mentioned that specifically, and that they saw him in both roles. So I think them using him, in these mini camps and OTAs so far at this point is just really seeing what they have. I wholeheartedly believe they're going to be adding another safety to this room sooner than later. I think if you go into the season with trying to decide between Damani and Lathan as your starter, I think that's playing with fire. It really is, a fifth round and an undrafted rookie last season. I think you just need to add a veteran presence not named Nick Scott to that room, who can kind of step in and fill in if, these guys really do struggle. And not to say that it's bad if Lathan Ransom goes in week 1 and he struggles. I mean, it's not an easy position to play. He wasn't a high draft pick, and it probably will take some time to learn that Evero defense that we all know is a complicated defense. So I think adding someone as a veteran is I would put money on that is going to happen. You're on mute.
Before we get to Alex here quick, I kind of agree with what Bryson said. I think it's kind of testing the waters. What do we have here? Let's see what I think they want to go in before training camp, know if they need to go add another guy. So they're trying to piece all these guys together. Hey, can this guy fit here? And I think Ricky, what you said too is true. I don't know if we're going to see the same defenses and looks we've seen last year. Obviously, there's going to be variations of it, but there is going to be, I know we were talking today and there was, we could see some different looks in dime. I think Dunk brought up a dime look, and you might have 3 safeties on the field at once and one playing that nickel spot. So anyway, I think they're just testing the waters and really trying to see what they have. And then if they do need to add, like Bryson said, which I think there's a pretty good chance they do, they can do that knowing what they already have on the team.
The big responsibilities being at the last line of this defense, right? With so many post-snap adjustments, it's not a lot of pre-snap movement. That's the Fangio derived system that Ijero likes to deploy for the most part. But the main principle of that is giving the quarterback all they can see after the snap, right? So I think that having the multiple safety looks and all of those things will really make the processing a much thicker job for an opposing quarterback. But I think to Bryce's point about bringing in another veteran safety, it's a lot to ask this 4th round rookie safety in Lathan Ransom and even Damani Richardson, who's been in the system for 1 year, right? But he's still an undrafted free agent who didn't get a ton of playing time last season. The communication aspect of that position is pivotal. I mean, we saw even last year with Jordan Fuller, a guy who had played in the system. I think it's the reason they brought Nick Scott is because he had played in the system. Even if Nick Scott is more of a special teams player, terminology, the communication aspects, knowing the responsibilities in those meeting rooms, those are all things that he can still provide benefit from. And I think that's where if you get a guy, I know Justin Simmons is a name that's been floating around, right? Justin Simmons is a guy that not only is a veteran NFL player, but a player who has time spent in Evero's defense. So that familiarity and just not having a rookie feel all that weight and pressure on him, I do think that could be beneficial too for the development of a rookie.
Well, and point on that, Ricky's saying, Dan Morgan, I just pulled this up because I remember going through and he literally listed what he's looking for in positions at the combine. And he said for safety, you have to be smart, a good communicator. If you aren't either of those, you aren't going to last long on this defense. So that is key to that spot. Let's get to Alex. Alex, it has been a long-ass time. I can't believe I'm saying this. I kind of missed you in the chat here. $9.99 from Kitty Lit. We appreciate it. 501 going to 5 entries. $4.98 to Ricky for being dedicated to his banner responsibilities. Alex, we appreciate it. I hope the restaurant and bar is going well up in New York. I'm not sure where that's at. I'm assuming you guys have been open a couple of months now. Ricky might be able to fill us in on that, but We appreciate you, Alex.
Cheers. Man.
Cheers, Alex. Love you.
I got to be dedicated to my banners. I think I'm the only one in Carolina right now that is raising a banner. So
Oh, God. Too soon.
Our teams are really starting to get their ass kicked and everything.
Let's jump to another thing that Alex said in this newsletter. And this is the one I wanted to talk to Ricky about because I thought it was interesting. Not what I expected, but Princely Umanmielen, God, I hope I said that right. He might be ready earlier than Nick Scorton. And Ricky, I want you, between us three, you know the most about both of these guys. So do you think that's shocking, or is it something maybe you expected? And thoughts overall?
Well, I don't really know what they mean by it, first of all. I think that's where I'll start, right? Saying that he might be more ready to play in his situation. Could he be more ready to play what his responsibilities that they're going to ask him to do? If they're talking about him as a designated pass rusher for specific scenarios, a third down, come in, pin your ears back and get after him. Sure. I mean, I think that Princely Umanmielen has a very proven track record as a pass rusher. I think that he has a really good skill set. I think that he has a deep tool bag. And I think that if you're looking for just a speed rusher, of course he's ready to go, man. That is what he does really well. If you're talking about a guy who's ready to come in and set the edge and is going to be a 3-down defender, I don't know. I would be surprised about that just based off of how I viewed Princely as a prospect. I think that he needs to get stronger. I think that he had to figure out some of the technical aspects of setting the edge and kind of like sealing off that side as a run defender. But I think that when I look at Nick Scorton, man, I think a lot of things that people forget. I'm a huge Nick Scorton fan, in case anyone doesn't know this. But also, I'm a acknowledger that Nick Scorton is 20 years old. And saying that a 20-year-old may not be as ready as a 23-year-old to play in the NFL, that's not exactly breaking news to me. I think that when you look at what Nick Scorton could be, though, I don't think that him saying that means that Nick Scorton's not ready to play and Nick Scorton's not going to contribute this year. I didn't get that from that personally. I just got it from, hey, look, what we thought about Princely, he's there, man. Like, this guy can rush the passer. He can come in and he could do this right away. And that's cool. I got no beef with that. And I also don't think that this should take away anything about Nick Scorton and his future. First of all, they haven't put fucking full pads on. They haven't played football together yet. So, like, I'm not going to read too much into it. But, hey, it would be great. If Princely comes in and he's even better than Nick and he got him in the third, sign me up, man. I'm all for hitting draft picks.
Bryson?
Yeah, I really don't have much more to add. I agree with Ricky. I think when you talk about a 20-year-old versus a 23-year-old in minicamp, their first couple of reps with the team, the 23-year-old looking more ready to go than the 20-year-old. I think, especially with some of the changes that Nick Scorton went through from going from two different schools and the different systems and gaining weight, I think I'm not surprised to hear that a 23-year-old is a little ahead of schedule than a 20-year-old on an NFL regimen.
Yeah, I don't have too much. I kind of agree with Ricky. I would like to know the specifics of this because this is very broad. And again, it's June 18th.
Right.
I guess so. Right. It's tough to say. We don't have pads on yet. And I think we need to, just kind of pump the brakes. I just thought it was interesting because that's not something I expected.
Yeah.
Because, Panthers do have a first-round grade on Nick Scorton, so I do expect big things from him and how they valued him in the draft. So,
yep. I think that Remy or
thank you. I was just about to pull that up.
Oh, sorry. I was doing the Remy one first, and then I was talking Keaton right afterwards. You and I are very closely on the same page here. But Remy says, unfortunately, they're both required to be thrown into the fire, just the state of our team at the moment. And, hey, look, that's one of the things we talked about when Jadeveon Clowney was no longer a Carolina Panther, right? Is that the depth of that position, it gets a little bit thinner. And you've got DJ Wanham, who's been kind of battling a few things so far in, like, mini camps. Pat Jones has looked great, apparently, by all reports and articles that I've read about him. I'm excited about him. But the plan still here, I think that it's important for people to remember, too. I think that the plan is still Pat Jones and DJ Wanham are your starters. I don't think that they drafted Nick Scorton and Princely Umanmielen to come in here and unseat those two. I think they brought him in here to learn from them and to do the same platoon idea that they have with the defensive line, like the interior of it. I think that they want to be able to swap these guys out. I think they want to keep their foot on the gas, and that requires fresh bodies and dangerous bodies. And so Nick Scorton, does he need development? Sure, man, he's 20, and he's coming and playing all these different positions, different alignments. I mean, literally, the guy was playing like 3 different positions at Texas A&M after being a stand-up rusher at Purdue. And now he's going to come into the NFL and have a bunch of responsibilities. Look, it's a lot. Princely, if they're saying that he's going to be ready before, but it's strictly as a DPR pass rusher, that's not surprising to me in the least bit.
Now, I do want to go to this giveaway because, I got my days mixed up. Just based off of the last NBA Finals game, I thought we were competing with the Game 6 of the NBA Finals night. We're not. So, Panther fans, get your ass in here. We got 278, 279, almost 280. We have a giveaway tonight, and the work that Joe Bello does is incredible. I literally have this painting hanging up right now in the man cave. I have like 4 or 5 of his. It's like pretty much my entire every wall is covered in his stuff. He does great work. And by the way, this is painted by him, and then it's just screen printed. He takes the original and screen prints the shit out of them, and they're great. They're awesome. They're incredible. He does incredible work. And we're doing a giveaway tonight. All you got to do is comment Nalo on YouTube. You'll be entered into the drawing. We will pick that winner tonight at the end of the episode. If you give us $5 or more in Super Chat, you'll get 5 or more entries. So again, take advantage of it and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are closing in on 1,000 subscribers. I would love to get there before training camp, and we're like at 930 something ish. Please subscribe to our YouTube. We would appreciate you guys if you could do that. I know that's a lot to ask, but it's very quick, and you can win one of these beautiful things. And as he restocked them, Ricky, I know you were
Not yet. So they are not even. They're not available right yet in his shop. He will eventually restock them, he believes. But for the time being, this is pretty much the last one available. So come and get this thing. It's 11x17. It is beautiful. The stickers are really cool too, man. He makes these really cool like vinyl stickers. And it's the seatbelt worldwide. It's got a globe with the 8-ball on it, and it's got the seatbelt across it. Really cool sticker. You put it on like, your MacBook or a water bottle or something like that. Or a cooler. That's one of my favorite things to do is just line a cooler with sick-ass stickers, bring them to the beach, and talk to everybody about all your stuff.
Same, dude.
Yeah, it's the way to be, right? And then you see the Xavier Legette one, man. I mean, look, he's already doing music videos. He's already at the Kentucky Derby. He breaks out and has a huge year this year, man. That's a conversation starter in its own, having the XL sticker. So great work by Joe Bello, man. Got to support him. And also he does work for like the Roaring Riot and stuff. I mean, he's just really tapped in with the Carolina Panthers fan base and wants to create just like we like to create, man. Like, he wants the coolest stuff for this fan base because he loves this team and this fan base as well. So support him, support us, get us to 1,000 as well, because when we get to 1,000, man, it is going to be a really cool giveaway that I think everyone would love to get their hands on this item as well.
And Made for More, we appreciate you in the chat doing the Lord's
work
up, here. Let's make the 1K happen. It's free to wait. It's free, guys. Just hit subscribe. Just hit subscribe. And you know what? It'll alert you when we're going live. You don't even have to check Twitter. You'll get the alert. Make sure you select the bell little icon. And don't forget, we have a super chat. We would appreciate you guys and your generous donations. But let's move forward here. There's another thing I want to talk about. And I think we're all on the same page here. We're not gonna name the report, but I will say this, and this is the banner, and I think you guys probably all know where I'm heading with this. But there was a report that came out this week that said Jaylen Coker is not a lock to make the 53. And I remember I did not interact with that post, but I did say Jaylen Coker isn't going anywhere. So I want to have that conversation quickly here. And I know, Bryson, you were a big supporter of Jaylen last year, thought he was going to make the roster. Got cut. Somehow we got him on our practice squad, and then he shows out like week 6 on or whatever it was, and became a pivotal, target for Bryce Young at the end of the season. So let's start with you on this. Thoughts on Jaylen Coker? We're not naming the report, but thoughts on Jaylen Coker and where you see him in that wide receiver room.
Yeah, I think he's as much of a lock as any other wide receiver you want to name in that room. he's going to get cut as much as T-Mac's going to get cut this season. He's not going anywhere. Like he's going to be there. I think as an undrafted rookie, he came in and was arguably the best wide receiver on this team last season, consistently throughout the entire year or games that he played. I think his route running ability, his ability to just like position himself in space, his hands, he is just so consistent. It blows my mind that he went undrafted with the ability that he's shown on the field early on. And I just think that he's another piece of this young, exciting Panthers offense, which, I mean, I'm blown away with the amount of love the Panthers are getting this offseason so far. But an exciting young Panthers offense was something that I saw today in the national media. I think he's part of it, and he plays a pivotal role in that. In a very young wide receiver room, when you take out, Adam Thielen, I guess Hunter Renfrow as well, but you got three young pieces to build around Bryce Young and T-Mac and Xavier Legette and Jaylen Coker. Those guys are going nowhere. This guy is a lock to make the roster. He probably slots in as the fourth receiver in that room currently as it sits. And, he's going to be involved in the offense. He's going to play another pivotal role like he did last year. I think Bryce Young developed a pretty strong connection with him, and that's going to continue to grow as Coker's going to grow with Bryce. We saw the steps last season from both of them, and that's only going to continue to progress, year in and year out that they are together. So Coker earned his spot last year, and he has earned the right, I think, from us fans to say he is a lock on this roster. I think that's disrespectful. It really is.
I wanted to touch on, before Ricky goes, just touch on this quick. They did initially have 7 wide receivers last year. Then they cut Coker. He somehow made it through through waivers, or no one picked him up. And then they placed him on the practice squad right away. So I think it went down to 6 initially. But just to clarify that, go ahead, Ricky.
Yeah, they carried 6 on like opening day. So for me, man, look at it this way, right? Jaylen Coker, look at all the draft picks of last year. And this is a new regime. This is a new front office. This is a new coach, right? Head coach and an offensive coordinator that spent a lot of time as wide receiver coaches and offensive staff. And they get a undrafted free agent who I think you could argue that he was the least controversially successful pick of that draft. And I know he wasn't a pick, but new player from that draft class for the Carolina Panthers last year. Because you can look at your first round pick, Xavier Legette. He had the issues with the drops. There were highlights and there were a lot of lowlights last year. And there are people that believe thoroughly that he will bounce back. And there are people that are very apprehensive about it. Jonathan Brooks, we all know the troubles and the difficulties with the injuries there. Trevin Wallace, to say it was up and down is polite. It was a rough thing for him to kind of get his feet underneath him. He was thrown into the fire a little bit more than, I'm not trying to be mean about that, but he got thrown into a situation that I don't think that he was ready for or that they intended him on being in, with the green dot on the back of his helmet and playing without Shaq Thompson and playing without Josie Jewell for half of the time. I just don't think that was what they signed him up for when they drafted him in the third. Fourth round pick, Jatavion Sanders. Again, got potential. Also showed some limitations. Shaw Smith
great potential.
Yeah, I know you love it. Look, I think he could be a good player, but again, that's projection that we're going off of, right? Every other player that we talk about, Shaw Smith-Wade, little bit of time on the field, did some good things. You're hoping he takes a big step this year. By all reports, he's playing really well.
He doesn't have a choice. He better take a big step.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Crumedy. Like, these are the draft picks, man. I'm not trying to, throw anyone's name in the dirt, but these are the draft picks. And then you got Jaylen Coker. Jaylen Coker came in and by every metric, by the eye test, by statistics. Now, he missed some games with injury, but when he was on the field, he was a safety blanket. He had sure hands. He was way more athletic than I think people anticipated him being coming out of Holy Cross. The guy ran for an 80-yard touchdown, for crying out loud. You can't tell me he's slow if no one could catch him running 4/5 of the football field. Like, that's not slow. I don't care who you are. He's got a 40-inch vertical. He also can jump, and he's got good hands, and he's a good route runner. To say that he's in the same group as Jacoby George and Dan Jacina, I think is a wild, attention-grabby, look-at-me thing to say. That's not an oversight, in my opinion. And also I'll tell you, as somebody who has written articles and has to submit them and has to like proofread and do all those kinds of things, when you're writing an article, man, you're not like taking it off of a script. These are your thoughts. Like they have to be in there somewhere to bring it somewhere, right? This is what that person who wrote that article thought, or it's at least what he anticipated could get a response, could elicit a response. And guess what it did? And now he went back and he said, "Hey, oversight, my bad." Sure, whatever, man. Like, I'm sure he was just very busy. You know, it's probably a baseball game on or something that kind of like distracted him from everything. But one way or another, I just think that like Jaylen Coker is going to make this roster. Jaylen Coker is not a fringe player. It would take a significant injury, and it would take everybody else turning into all-pro players for Jaylen Coker to be a fringe player, in my opinion.
Okay, I want to get to some super chats, and then I'm going to say my piece here. Keaton Bullock, we appreciate you. 5 entries into the drawing.
Yes, sir.
$4.99. I need the gang to sign it if I win. That would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool to do. It might take a bit to get to you, but that would be cool.
We can figure that out. Yeah.
But cheers to you. We appreciate the super chat. Again,
Cheers, Keaton.
$5 gets you 5 entries into the chat or more. So we appreciate you, Keaton.
We consider that $5, Keaton, just so you're aware.
Oh yeah.
You
I'm gonna cover your penny. I'm gonna cover your penny, Keaton.
And then we're getting some shots here in the apple beer. Clay Wright, please try it. The young folks are calling it Bapple.
Hey,
the young folks are calling it Bapple.
What if he's just surprised? What if it's not a shot? What if he's like, "Oh, hey, that's cool."
Give this look at this can. It is beautiful.
Now,
just
Clay,
give it a whirl. Just give it a whirl, man.
You see those 3 smoke puffs right there? That's what Clay is indulging in this season. This is one of my favorite listeners that we have because he judges us by how long our episodes are, by how many times he has to repack. So,
but Clayton, we appreciate it. $19.99. That's incredible. You will be entered in, and we appreciate you in Nashville. Hey, let us know your favorite bar in Nashville. I'm curious. Also, Keaton says he lives in Alaska, so are we gonna have to like ship that on a ferry over there to get it to him?
That's gonna be fun. Yeah, I
want to go in here and we'll get to.
You got one more.
All right, we'll roll through them. Making True Money. Hey, he's on the live tonight. We appreciate you tapping in. We cut Coker after everyone's roster was set for all 32. It was a smart move by Dan and Dave to do that. Hashtag leave our mark. I'm just kidding. Keep pounding. We appreciate you, True Money. Hey, we're going to talk about that damn logo here in a bit. These guys thought this episode was going to be short, and we're already 40 minutes in. We still haven't gotten to the grades. But no,
missed it. Me and Bryson already did the grades in the first 3 minutes of the show. So this is all just icing on the cake, Curtis.
So let's get back to the conversation here for a minute on Coker. If I can find my way back to this banner. Ricky, there we go. I found it. Jaylen Coker, I'm going to read some stats to you. And we all saw what he did on film last year. 32 receptions, 478 yards. And I hate comparing this. This guy was undrafted. Xavier Leggett, 49 receptions, 497 yards. Leggett outpaced him in targets 84 to 46. Why are we even having this conversation? We end it there. And I'm not trying to compare those guys. I think they're both going to be great for this team, but let's end the conversation there. I mean, you are foolish not thinking this guy makes the roster. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I could go on even a more of a rant if I want. We could talk about he had 1 drop the entire season, Coker. And anyway, I go on and on, but I think that's how you end that conversation. There's no reason why this guy does not make the 53. I think he's a lock, and I'm confident in saying that. Oh yeah, James Cody here. I'm trying to get to the chat and keep up with this. 429.29 in shipping. Send it via Moose.
Yeah,
I love it.
I'm definitely not going to send that like next day. I can promise you that. I'm going to find an economy price to get it to Alaska to you, buddy. But
and guys, I'm going to keep pushing this. We're going to talk about it all episode. It's that simple. just hit Nalo in the comments. You'll be entered in to win this beautiful piece of art. And it really
have to be
is
subscribed too. Have to be subscribed to the
Yes.
podcast on YouTube.
Please subscribe to our podcast.
And we will
Guys.
check it before we send it out. We'll confirm with you that you're subscribed. You'll shoot us a screenshot and all that kind of stuff. So it is don't try to cheat it, man. Just hit the click button, type Nalo. Send $5 if you want to. You get 5 more entries, dude.
Exactly. Well, guys, I know we want to get to the grades, but we gotta talk. There's 2 other things I want to talk about, and then we'll get rolling here. If I can figure out how to share my screen, and that is this. We've all seen it by now. I still don't know why the Panthers did this. I'm wondering if a social media person got canned over this because it kind of created an uproar, but maybe that's what they wanted. But anyway, let's just take a look at this picture for a moment. So Panthers post this. No caption, nothing. It's just, here's this random claw marks and then like a grayed out Panthers logo on the bottom. And you know us fans, we want, or I don't know what we want, but folks have been talking about maybe a jersey release, maybe that 3rd helmet option besides the silver and the black. They post this mysteriously, and then about an hour or 2 later, it's basically a hype video, and it's with the mantra "Leave our mark." And then folks start freaking out that Keep Pounding is going away, which Vashti graciously checked in with her sources, and that is not happening. I would think David Tepper has learned from the first time when he tried to switch to Keep Pounding Up and kind of get away from it at games a couple of years ago. And then fans got very upset and pissed off, and then he brought it back. So I'm hoping he has learned from that mistake before. But they have cleared that up and said, this is not, they're not trying to do Keep Pounding is staying. That is the team's mantra. This is just something that they're kind of using as a campaign for this year, whatever they wanted to say, about it. But anyway, let's talk about it. What were your guys' thoughts? I know initially I thought it was a jersey. I thought jerseys were changing for sure. Cause I think Carolina, there was a certain threshold they needed to meet, or a year when they could change jerseys. And I think this is the first year they can do it. And with everything, it seems like there's a lot of hype around this team, at least building nationally. Maybe this would be the year they try to do it, or maybe they're going to wait another year to see how this year pans out. But anyway, what are you guys' thoughts on the Leave Our Mark claw marks graphic that freaked everyone out for about 2 hours online?
Yeah, I mean, when
Bryson's
it happened,
chomping at the bit. He's ready to roll.
I was a little confused. I texted you guys, do you know, you have any thoughts or ideas as to what this might be? I was at work, so I didn't see it until a couple hours later. But yeah, I mean, I thought potentially maybe a jersey change, potentially maybe a helmet, but to see it was a hype video, it was a little disappointing. But I think that comes with time. I do believe eventually we'll get there. Maybe a permanent black helmet, or the different jersey combinations that we all love, I think will eventually come. But I was sad to find out that wasn't kind of a hint or a dig at it. Kind of weird way to go about a hype video is to post something so cryptic like that and then leave it with no comment, and then it's just a video. Just a little confusing, I think, for fans, which it did draw a lot of confusion. And then with that that hashtag they use, that's new for the the social media account to use, definitely did draw some confusion amongst the fan base, but cleared it up thanks to Vashti. And I guess it's just social media team kind of like us during the offseason, trying to think of content to talk about and content to make leading up to the season. So I guess cool. I would have loved for it to have been a new jersey or a new helmet, but unfortunately it wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Some of this felt like it was let's try something out. Let's see what the response is, right? We were talking about this, and first of all, you're right. Shout out Vashti for asking and figuring this out. It's good to have local people that are in tune with the fan base, because they immediately go straight to the source and they're like, hey, y'all got people going crazy out here just because you posted this dumbass little Panther claw with some colors. They think you're changing the jerseys. They think you're getting rid of Keep Pounding. First, I would say that I didn't think that they would get rid of Keep Pounding, right? I thought that would just be so crazy and tone deaf on a year where they're not gonna have training camp. They're coming off of the worst 7-year stretch of this franchise, and David Tepper's finally getting people to not talk about him first when they talk about the Carolina Panthers. I think that doing that would just be an absolute suicide mission for David Tepper. So I'm glad that wasn't the case, and I never thought it would be. But I do think that this is something that they're just kind of incorporating. That leave our mark. I saw Panther Pickle comment something earlier, and he says, I don't understand why they don't just see this as a young players just leaving their mark as young players do. That's kind of how I anticipated this going. I thought that they would want to incorporate something new because a lot of what they are doing is trying to turn a page right now in Carolina Panthers history in the misfortune of this franchise. Bryce Young is going to be the future of this team, and we're going to get into that later when I talk about how I feel about Bryce. But we're talking about a new franchise quarterback. We're talking about a top 10 overall wide receiver pick this year, and some defensive players that people are really excited about. The signing of Trayvon Merrick and these defensive linemen, Derek Brown coming back, J.C. Horn assuming this leadership responsibility. And then you've got Dave Canales, man, who is completely different than any head coach we have ever had here in Carolina. He does things differently. He talks to his team differently. The environment, the feeling that he facilitates within that locker room and within his group of men is entirely different than what we have seen before. Ron Rivera would be the only person that would come close as far as making it like a family type of feeling. And so when I'm thinking about this, leave your mark, they just want to do that, man. Like they literally just want to say, hey, keep pounding. We're always going to love keep pounding, but we're about to do some new shit too. And so I don't have a problem with incorporating something new. I think that it was a little bit of a workshop. I think they threw it out when the response was so vehemently wild. I think that's when they went into a little bit of damage control here. They're like, hey, keep pounding forever, guys. Relax. We're not changing that up. We just wanted to see, does this make you pissed off? And unfortunately for David Tepper, this makes us pissed off. Everything makes us pissed off right now. We haven't won more than 5 games since I didn't have a kid. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't even a dad the last time we won that many games. So that is a crazy thing that people just got to realize. This fan base is on edge in any single thing where we got a chance to chomp at the bit. Trust me, we're biting, baby.
I got a question for you guys.
Max hasn't known one winning season yet.
Not a single winning season. Not a single one, man. He is
that poor
forged from the fire. He is Bane of Panthers fans.
I want to get to the super chat quickly because I didn't want to overpass it here. So 17-0 owed to Ricky with his schedule release.
Let's go, Mike. 17-0,
so
baby.
Mike Hollinger, you were a regular on this show. We appreciate you. Let's go. 199. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Appreciate you. I want to say 2 things, and I agree with Ricky on this. Panthers have been trying some new stuff. I'm a PSL owner. I go to majority of the games. In the last couple years, they've been doing different things every season. And last year, it was the Panthers Den in the stadium. That's new. They've never touched that. So I think they're trying to, and they're incorporating more of Panthers in some of the walls and stuff going into the tunnels. So they are trying new things and trying to excite folks about it. I never thought keep pounding was going away. I didn't. When they tried that a couple years ago and it totally flopped, I think they learned their lesson from that you're not getting rid of something that was created years ago and is literally the what am I trying to say? The life and blood of this team is that keep pounding mantra. So I think they learned from that mistake. But folks, in the offseason, like Bryson said, we're trying to find shit to talk about. And when you see something like this ominously online and the Panthers haven't done a jersey change in a while, besides that, the process blew a couple years ago or last year or whenever it was, folks get itching for it. So, but my question for you guys, and I was curious, and I think I know the answer from Bryson. I personally like the jerseys. I would be fine if they didn't change them. I'm honestly worried if they do change them, they're going to look like shit. So I'm asking you guys, do you want the jersey change? And Yeah, let's leave it at that. And we'll start with Ricky and then go back to Bryson.
First off, shout out my mom in the chat. She's a little bit late. What's up, Mom? Second, the thing that floored me the most about this conversation about New Jerseys and stuff was the amount of people that hate the silver helmets. That blows my mind, dude. I like the silver helmet. I love them. I love them, man. Sometimes I feel like I must be colorblind or just like more stupid than I actually am. Because when people are sitting there like criticizing, I remember when we played the Atlanta game at the end of the year, and people hated the gray pants with the white jerseys and the silver helmets.
I love the gray
and
pants.
I thought that was one of the sharpest kits we put out all year. I was like, damn, it looks old school. It looks fire. Like, it looks slick. I love it. But the amount of people that hate these silver helmets, I think that what it is, the black helmets are cool, man. And I love all the matte black look. But it is also being done by just about everybody and their brother right now in the NFL. And the silver helmets, I think, are a classic thing for Carolina. I think it looks cool. What I would like to see is with the black helmets, I'd like to see some sort of, whether it's white or silver trim on that helmet to make that decal pop a little bit, because the blue that they're using on that matte black helmet too just isn't exactly the same shade blue. Yeah, it's a little flat, right? So like, I think you need something to make that pop a little bit more. As far as changing the jerseys, I don't know, man. I don't think I'm with you, Curtis, to be completely honest, man. I worry very much about if they try to go super modern or something like that.
Gonna fuck it up, man.
I mean, look at the lettering. Even like, I'll be honest, man. Look at the lettering they did when they changed from the Carolina Panthers lettering that they had to the Carolina Panthers lettering that they currently use. Like, I know I can at least speak for myself, but I know a lot of fans that I've spoke to feel the same way about this. That old lettering is like, that's the stuff, man. That's the goods right there, right? Like, I'm talking about the one, Curtis, is a hat that you and I had that says Carolina Panthers across, like that old school lettering, the more aggressive style lettering. I just think that when you move away from these things and you see fans pining for throwbacks, what did the Jacksonville Jaguars just do, man? They basically just reinstilled their old jerseys because they were so much better than these modern, no personality, no soul things that everyone's doing. The Falcons look like a middle school team. I mean, it is crazy how bad their jerseys are. I love that for us. Yeah, I love that for us.
That's my concern, though. Like, if they go to that, it's just going to be some generic bullshit that you could have put up on the custom Madden team in the fucking game.
I think keep figuring out the different combinations, man. Make a little adjustment to that flat black helmet, and maybe wear black at home more. Like, that would be a good place to start.
Ricky, I have a question before we go to Bryson. So, would you be upset if they made the black helmet the helmet?
I'll be honest, man. I don't care if they wear like a mop bucket on the top of their head. If they start winning football games, I'm gonna be happy. Yeah. Like, and no, I wouldn't be mad because the black.
Come on, give me an answer. What one do you like more? Damn it!
I like silver more. I like silver more than the black helmets. I literally do, man. I think silver looks great with the black jerseys. I think it looks cool with the white jerseys, and I think it works with the processed blue jerseys. I think those black ones really only work with either like the black jerseys and maybe the processed blue, but even then, I think it's a little bit off to me.
All right, Bryson, take a different side here. Let's go.
Yeah, I love the matte black helmets. I would love for that to be the primary helmet. I think they're sleek. I think they're cool. I think they pop. So if they went that route, I would be in total agreement, happy with that. But my favorite jersey combination is the color rush, the all blue. I wish that they would wear that more. It's just, I think it looks the best. I don't think a necessary, a whole entire jersey change with different patches and combinations throughout the jersey is necessary. If you just incorporate that color rush jersey more throughout the season, I think fans would be happy with that. I think it's the best looking jersey in the NFL. I think there's some competition, but I'm a little biased. So I think that color rush jersey is just the absolute easiest on the eyes, man. It really is. That blue, the Panthers logo. But I agree with Ricky with that, the old lettering, like on your Tyler the Creator hats that you guys have that I'm jealous I don't have. That lettering is like outstanding. I mean, it's nostalgic. It looks clean and sleek. Like, I think when they put it back into the end zones, fans were happy. I think that should be permanent. It should stay in the end zones, and they should find a way to kind of bring that back and incorporate that. in whatever way they can, because again, that lettering is just classic, man. I don't think it would ever get old for any fans, just the way it is. So if Color Rush was the primary jersey, I would not be mad at that at all.
Yeah, if I had to pick, I think black. I'm a sucker for the black. If they would put the black jerseys as the home ones, and I understand, they're saying it's too warm in Carolina during that time and whatever, and they stick to the white jerseys the first couple months, but the black and blue it is. I agree with Bryson. It's it's the best damn jersey in the NFL. It really is. It's slick as hell, and yeah, it sucks when they go with the whites. And what annoys me about them going with the white uniforms is they don't sell the white uniforms in the store. They make it damn near impossible to buy a white jersey. So if you're going to wear the whites all the damn time, then sell the white jersey so we can wear it in the stadium. It makes no sense at all. And I've bitched about this on Twitter before, but it just doesn't add up to me. So that's my biggest gripe. I love the black helmets. I'd go black helmet, black jersey as your home, and then the silver and some of the other options. I agree with Ricky, though. I think the gray pants with even the white it looks sharp as hell. It does.
Yeah.
It looks good. I love that look, and I'm sure they will continue that. Guys, I promise we're going to get to these grades. I really am. But there's one more thing I want to
possibly have left to talk about. If you're going to talk about that softball game, I'm going to bed.
Hey, we won the first. We lost the second. We lost to the best team, the number 1 seed in the tournament by only 2 runs. So, and we should have never beat them, and we almost did. We had them on the ropes. But let's get to Mike K today. We got to talk. It's Jaire. So we were right in correcting Ricky last week. My Packers fan buddy was listening to our episode and was giving me shit about it and said we didn't deserve him because we couldn't pronounce his name.
Hiding all that brain inside that big cheese on top of it.
Mike K from the Charlotte Observer. The Panthers explored the possibility of adding Jaire Alexander, but there was never an offer made. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing to put out there, isn't it?
So the Panthers somehow Mike got this. Interesting. And for them to leak this or put this out there was probably not the best move on their part. So, Bryson, let's start with you. I think all 3 of us said we would be open to this as a possibility last week. I think a lot of us preferred Jaylen, if I can remember right. But he goes to Baltimore, goes with a guy he played college football with, was roommates with. Makes a lot of sense. The Ravens are better than the Panthers. I will admit that. I think we all can admit that. But thoughts,
17-0, son.
17-0.
So thoughts on this report, and then thoughts on the Panthers' interest, and what do you read into that?
Yeah, Ricky and I touched on this a little bit before you got on, Curtis. I was, I think, the only one that preferred Jaire over Jaylen Ramsey, just based off of his availability and not having to trade assets for him. And, to see the contract number that he signed, $4 million with $2 million in guarantees, and Baltimore it was kind of like a knife to the heart for me, because I think he could have been really used in his hometown in Charlotte, opposite of JC Horn. But it is what it is. We're on to the next. Now it's Jaylen Ramsey, or like Zachary Hernandez stated, Asante Samuel Jr. is out there as a free agent. Like, bring in someone else, because that room does need help. God forbid there's an injury. We are looking at some of the same situations we've been in and year out at that cornerback.
We're calling you up, Bryson, if that happens.
Yeah, I mean,
in the backfield.
Hell, I might be able to compete with some of those guys. Just kidding. I would make a fool of myself, but yeah. I think
Ricky's son was a stud in flag football. We might need to sign him.
Yeah.
There you go.
He's got the wingspan. He doesn't have the height yet, but he's got the wingspan.
It's all effort with him, man.
No, it's disheartening to know that they were interested but didn't make an offer. I mean, that doesn't really make sense to me. He obviously he's passed the physical and signed with the Baltimore Ravens. So why say you're interested and then not make an offer, just to tease us, or try to persuade another corner to sign. I don't get the like understanding or the point of that. So that was disheartening for me, being kind of wanting him in Carolina. But yeah, I think, it's on to the next, see what other options are out there. I do think they need to add to the safety room, like we talked about earlier, into this cornerback room, two of the thinnest groups on the team, in my opinion.
Ricky, I'm going to jump in here since you guys did touch on this a little bit, and then you can go after me if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, I was bummed by this. I don't think Panthers really had a shot after just learning reading the tea leaves of the connection that Jackson and him had. He obviously took a pay cut. I mean, it was like a $4 million deal, like crazy low money. Guy probably wants to go and try to win a ring. I don't blame him. If I was a free agent and I had to pick between Carolina and Baltimore, I'm probably picking Baltimore. Sorry to say it, folks. I would. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves here. So I don't blame him for that. I don't think Carolina really had a shot just based off of that. And it sounded like teams had other offers out there from what Jordan Schultz and Adam Schefter reported. Carolina was interested. I mean, Schefter made that a point. Schefter was on Pat McAfee's show today and said Baltimore kind of makes sense, but the Panthers are interested, and teams have put out offers. And then literally like 5 minutes later, Jordan Schultz broke the news that he signed with the Ravens, and he was already at the building. We all saw the pictures. So I always liked Jaire. I thought he's solid in Green Bay. I know Packer fans have, they've had some, words to say about him and him in the locker room and, his availability. But I always I will take that guy over half of this cornerback room right now. And that's saying a lot. I don't think it's very deep. And if you have one injury to the top guy, you are screwed. You are screwed going into the season. And the NFC South has some good wide receivers that you got to go up against, 6 times a year. So, yeah, I hope they're serious about this and they try to at least bring in some guys to compete, even if, they are lower tier in that free agency pool. But, man, it's that group is getting thin in that market. So I hope they can make something shake before training camp. But, yeah, it's unfortunate. I at least thought they would have tried to put in an offer. But maybe they were told, Alexander's locked in at Baltimore. Good luck.
Well, do we find any of it convenient that this report came out that they liked him but did not make an offer once the internet started talking about how nobody wants to come to Carolina, that they would rather play in Baltimore? Because I didn't see any report that said that, first of all, right? What I saw was a bunch of people making the assumption of hey, look, you get to go play with Lamar. And I know he wanted to play with Lamar. They played together at Louisville. They have a connection. Baltimore is a perennial playoff contender. There's no question about that. I think that's a legitimate thing. But also fans were sitting there and saying, I don't blame him. He don't want to come here and play in Carolina. Carolina's losing. Carolina's not good. So then maybe the organization leaks this out to Mike Kay, who's phenomenal and is only doing his job reporting what he's being told here. But maybe they leaked that out as hey, we didn't get shunned. We didn't send him an offer. Maybe it is partly because of what you're saying. Maybe representation for Jaire made it known. Hey, look, man, Jaire's really keen on playing with Lamar. If they offer anywhere close to what we want, he's going to say yes there. So we can let you know if it's far off and we'll spin the block and talk to you again. But for the time being, I think he wants to go to Baltimore. So maybe that's part of it. But maybe part of it is damage control. I don't think the Tepper likes that when people start saying no one wants to come to Carolina. I think that pisses him off. I think that really grinds his gears, gets under his skin, makes him want to flip a couple hats. So I think that what he does is he puts that press release out and he's like, hey, we never offered him. Never even tried to give him money. If we would have gave him money, and also, who's to say that Tepper wouldn't have thrown $11 million at him? And then Jaire would have had a real conversation with his family and his representation of, hey, I get 1 year for 4. Or I go ahead and get triple that right now just to go
home.
Just to go home and maybe get hurt and play 4 or 5 games. But I can make that guaranteed $8 million. So I don't know, man. I just think that there are different elements to it, and we'll never know everything for sure. But I thought it was very convenient of the timing of that came out afterwards. Because, I think it was Ian Rappaport or somebody had said, maybe it's not him, maybe it was Garofalo, somebody said, I think he got more money offered to him, possibly by a team like Carolina. That was a report that came out. And so Carolina, I think, was just refuting that report
Schefter, I
too.
think that was.
Yeah, so I really think
I
that,
think Schefter.
So see, I think that a lot of this has to do with them just refuting that report that they were shunned for offering more money. I don't think they want that narrative going around the team either, because I think that's when you are a team that's losing, one of the only things you got in your back pocket is money and that you're willing to overpay. So I don't think they want it going around that people are also turning them down for extra cash.
Yeah. Let's go to Christian here, and then we'll get to the grades. $9.99. We appreciate you.
5 entries. That a
Five
boy,
entries into the Tedero McMillan beautiful portrait by Joe Bello. And he asked, what would you guys be comfortable giving up for Jaylen? We did talk about this last week, but it's a super chat, so we do appreciate it. What beer are you guys on, by the way?
2.
I'm on 3.
What are you on?
I'm on 3, and I have not eaten since noon today. So,
but is that counting? Is that counting the beer that you drank at the softball game like 2 hours ago? Because that doesn't count. Oh,
those are empty.
Look at you.
Little 12 ounces.
Look at you. Okay.
And I also haven't eaten dinner at all. So I'll be going to McDonald's after this podcast because I'm starving. But let's talk about Jaylen Ramsey. So what would you give up? Bryson, you did prefer, you're right, you did prefer Alexander over Ramsey. But what would you be willing to give up to Miami right now to get him?
I mean, with the situation Carolina's in, the talent that's out there in free agency, I think something as high as maybe a 4th I'd be okay with. A 4th, and then obviously you're going to have to take on a lot of that contract that he has. I don't think Miami would be willing to do that with that low of a draft pick. So, maybe working that out. A 4th, I would be okay with. A 4th or anything higher, obviously. When you start getting into the 3rd, 2nd, 1st, you got to weigh age, availability. How long is he going to be in Carolina? I just think this team is heading in the right direction and mortgaging future picks, high draft picks for players that you don't. It's just kind of uncertain whether they're going to stick around or not. I'm not a big fan of that as of right now. So I would say 4th or higher.
I think I'd offer a conditional late round swap. And it would be conditional on how much are they willing to pick up on that contract. I thought I had read somewhere that Miami was willing to play ball on taking on a good bit of that money because they knew that they needed to move him. The only way I'd offer a 4th is if they're taking about 85% of that money. If they want to pay for a large chunk of that money, I'll give them a 4th. Otherwise, I think it's a 6th. For no compensation, I offer them a 6th. And if they want to swap a 4th and a 5th, where we get a 5th back with Jaylen Ramsey, we give them a 4th. I could do that too. And I think that that's the way that it seems like Dan Morgan and Brant Tillis like to do it, is that they don't really like losing assets, but they don't mind going down around and stockpiling and keeping the same quantity of draft selections so that on draft night, they get into a situation where all they want to do is move up 40 picks, in the 3rd, 4th round. They got an extra 5 that they could throw in there and they can make that happen. So I think that would be what I would look at.
Yeah, I'm not giving a 4th. There's no way in hell. Guy's 30 years old. His salary, his contract's ridiculous, and I think that's the hang up for any team trying to trade for him. And Ricky stole my thunder. I was thinking a 6. I give you a 6. I'll eat most of his contract. You got a deal. I don't even know if I would maybe do a 5th if the Dolphins ate a lot of his contract. I would not touch him for a 4th.
Maybe a conditional 5th. Yeah.
Because I also don't want Carolina just getting taken advantage of because they're desperate. Because it's clearly known now that they do want a corner, and I don't want them getting eaten up by a team because they're you might say, well, they can't draft in the 4th round, whatever. But when you're a team that needs to win, you need all the draft picks you can get to try to build that team, whether you can hit on it or not. So, I would do a 6, and I'll take most of the contract. I'll eat it, and I think Carolina could do that. But let's take a break. 30 seconds. We got 500 people in here, and we're going to finally do these damn grades. I apologize. I wanted to get through a lot of that stuff that has kind of popped up this week. So we will get to that. We appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in. Again, we're doing a giveaway right now. Tedero McMillan, comment Nalo. and you will be put in the drawing. We're going to draw it at the end. It's a Joe Bello portrait here. If I can pull this up quickly, that's what it looks like. And we'll be giving that away at the end of this episode. And we're going to take a quick break right now, and we will be back after this short break. Exciting news, Panther fans. I'm thrilled to announce our partnership with BetStamp and Sign Up Expert, opening up an incredible opportunity for you to join sportsbooks in your area to get the best odds and new user offers. Head over to our dedicated page at signupexpert.com/Panthers to explore a selection of sportsbooks tailored to your region, each with unique offerings. If you're ready to take sports betting to the next level and show some love to Panthers on Tap, I highly recommend signing up for your next sportsbook through our Sign Up Expert link. Alrighty, let's get to the grade. So again, the next 5 weeks, we're going to be breaking position by position down, grading them, the entire room. And we are starting with quarterbacks and running backs tonight. This is the first time. Well, actually, you guys know what you picked. You didn't know what I did. But here we go. So I'm going to show you the grades, and then I also never told Bryson or Ricky this. I also have a question. So we're going to talk about the grade, and then I have a question for them based on this room. And I'll do that for the running backs as well. So
you love doing that shit where you surprise us with a bunch of stuff that we don't have any chance.
Dirty dog.
Curtis is sitting over here doing homework, figuring out exactly what he wants to say. And then the minute that we're on here, he's like, hey, by the way, I have 7 questions that I'm going to ask you, and I need an answer in 30 seconds.
Hey,
it's like a fucking job interview.
That's what people want. That's what people want. I want off the cuff. I don't want prepared bullshit. So your grades are prepared. You don't get to prepare for this. So quarterbacks, let's go through them. So I know there's another guy in here. I didn't put him on in the picture. It's all right. He ain't making the roster. So let's look at. So we have quarterback room, the obvious two, Bryce Young, Andy Dalton, and then we have our good old Jake the Snake Plumber, who, showed progress through preseason last year. I know I was pretty damn hard on that dude. Deservedly so. He was terrible at Louisville. But let's talk about our grades. So Ricky, I cheated with this. I went back and forth. I wanted to put like A-, and then I'm like, nah. I kept going back and forth with it. So I was shocked you had a higher grade than both me and Bryson, because I feel like we've been over the last several months have been riding that train a little bit harder than you have, but I'm curious to see what your reasoning is behind that A. So let's go with the grade first. We'll answer the question after.
Yeah, so I gave the A, and it is primarily based off of Bryce Young. I didn't do the thing with the whole room so necessarily with the quarterbacks, and for good reason, because one of the reasons I like Bryce Young so much is the durability, is his availability, is the toughness that he shows. So I graded this mostly off of Bryce Young, but I did factor in Andy Dalton to an extent, because I think that when you look at Andy Dalton, man, if he's just your backup, I'm not talking about a guy who's competing and pushing your starter, right? That's not what I want Andy Dalton to be. If you're in that position, you don't have a good quarterback and you're in a bad place, right? But if he is just sitting behind your quarterback, and your quarterback is a young quarterback, and Andy Dalton has played 13 years of NFL football, right? Whatever it is, over a decade of NFL football. And he has seen just about everything that a defensive coordinator can throw at him, from classic defenses to these new age defenses, because he just played meaningful snaps last season. I think that there is very few backup quarterbacks I would rather have than Andy Dalton. He is not threatening, but he is smart enough and competent enough to help your quarterback. Seems to have a good rapport with Bryce Young, seems to have a good relationship with Bryce Young. But this A, it has nothing to do with Jack Plummer. I'm going to go ahead and just say that. This A has to do with Bryce Young. And I have been watching a lot of last year's film again recently. I do this every time that, we get this down little time. I'll jump in there and I'll start watching it again. And I watch film just regularly, man. When I'm bored, I'll throw on a Panthers game. It's fun to watch. Bryce Young is good as hell, guys. And Bryce Young was good as hell when he came out of Alabama. He was my number 1 overall prospect in that entire class, not just quarterbacks, but in the entire class. He was who I wanted them to take. I believed in him wholeheartedly. I was extremely nervous about Bryce Young when he looked like he had zero confidence in himself. and he looked like he was panicking on damn near every snap. I was extremely nervous about him getting out of that hole and figuring it out. What I saw is that he not only has climbed out of the hole, he's starting to climb a ladder. And once he got to that flat level ground again, I saw the Bryce Young that I saw at the beginning of his rookie season. I saw a guy that was willing to take chances. I saw a guy that believed in his arm talent. I saw a guy that believed in his offensive line and believed his eyes. What he saw, he believed, and he reacted accordingly. He threw with anticipation instead of being late and causing turnovers. If Bryce Young starts where he finished, if there is no ramp up to get back to this part again, if he starts where he's finished and he continues to ascend, Bryce Young has the ability, in my opinion, to be a top 8-9 quarterback in the NFL this season. And I think that the familiarity with Dave Canales in this system, I think that the familiarity with Jaylen Coker, the familiarity with Adam Thielen, the growing rapport with Jatavion Sanders, having a guy like Teteroa McMillan come in and open everything up. Dave Canales finally getting his feet underneath him and knowing what Bryce Young does well, knowing how to deploy the greatest offensive schematics possible to get the most out of Bryce Young. I, honest to God, think that Bryce Young could have a massive season this year, and I'm not going to shy away from it. I really like him. I think that this is going to be the year. We talked about this class, guys. Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, not a single one of them can say that they are definitively better than Bryce Young. Not CJ Stroud either. I don't want to hear that because he had just as many struggles last year as Bryce had the year before, and he dealt with a less devastating circumstances, in my opinion. And give me the guy who was progressing and getting better, not the guy who went backwards. So give me Bryce Young this year. I got him at like an A+ type quarterback at the end of this year.
Coming in hot. I fucking love it. All right, Bryson, what do you got?
Yeah, I took a slightly different approach than Ricky. I think if I was basing it off of just Bryce Young, it would have been an A grade, potentially an A+ grade. I'm that high on Bryce Young. I took into consideration Andy Dalton as the backup, and if he were to have to play, I think we saw last season his struggles at that position, and then we know Plummer. Hopefully that man's just holding water, and he's doing nothing more than handing that out to the players. So I think the depth behind Bryce is a little concerning if he were to go down. But again, Ricky made the point. He has been reliable. He has been available. And for someone coming into the league and that being his number one knock is his size and will he last in the NFL? And you got guys like CJ Stroud who has soreness in minicamp and can't throw. And, of course, Anthony Richardson being sore and coming out because he's tired. I think Bryce Young's just like completely qualmed those concerns in my eyes, at least, of being able to take hits. We saw what happened year one and him being like the second most sacked rookie quarterback of all time and getting up after every single hit. So he's done all that. I think if Bryce Young can go through what he went through last season and being benched and then coming back and playing literally like statistically like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, I don't think there's anything he can't do. I really believe that. That the struggles he went through his rookie season, going into to his second year, being benched, and then not even knowing, like we were talking about Bryce Young being traded, and Bryce Young was like, yeah, what happens, whatever happens. If it's a new opportunity, whatever. And then him coming back in and having that belief in his offensive line that he hadn't had up to that point in his career, having wide receivers that were somewhat decent and playing to the level that he did. I mean, the sky is the limit for him at this position, and it just feels so good because I know all three of us have been supporters of him, like through and through the trials and tribulations. We have believed that something was still inside of him, that what we saw at Alabama can eventually and will eventually come out at the NFL level, and we saw that through the final 10 weeks of last season. So to continue to see that this year, if he builds off of the final 10 weeks and just continues to climb that ladder, the analogy that Ricky used, I mean, I have no issue with what Ricky said about him being a potential top 9, top 8, top 7, top 6 quarterback in this league because what we saw from him was just phenomenal play. The pocket awareness, the ability to run, take off and run when he needs to get a first down, like the accuracy, the ability to trust your wide receivers and take those chances deep, believing in his offensive line, bringing that offensive line back as a unit, as a whole, is going to be huge for Bryce Young and his belief in himself and his trust with his fellow teammates around him. So if it was just solely based off Bryce, again, it'd be an A for me. But I kind of base my grade off of the depth behind him. God forbid something happens if Andy Dalton's starting. My belief level in this team goes way down. You're only as good as your quarterback, and I don't have much belief in an aging Andy Dalton to win very many games.
Chad, I want to hear from you all too. So give us your grade for this room. I went solely off of Bryce Young. I love Bryce Young. You guys all know that if you've listened to this podcast last couple of years. I thought what we saw the last 10 games of the season is what we saw at Alabama. A guy who looked comfortable, a guy who trusted his offensive line, a guy who trusted his wide receivers, and he looked comfortable. He looked like the Bryce Young we saw for the Crimson Tide. His last 10 games of the year, 2,100 yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I know he had a couple rushing touchdowns in the year. He led, I think it was like 6 to 8 game-winning or game-tying drives at the end of the year. Incredible. He also had 26 big-time throws, which was tied for the most in the NFL with Joe Burrow, those last 10-game stretch. He played incredible. My biggest crutch is he needs to do it at the beginning of the season, and we haven't seen it yet. And I'm hoping, and everyone thinks it's just going to translate over. It's just so unknown for me. Is it just going to translate over from that last game where, he went or he whooped up on Atlanta and they put up 40 points or whatever it was, big scoring game, a ton of touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, the no-look Steph Curry pass to Tommy Tremble in the end zone. Is that going to translate to week 1? I need to see that. And I think I'd probably bump that up then. But yeah, that's just my biggest concern is Carolina needs to come out hot, and Bryce Young needs to establish that confidence he did at the end of last season earlier in the season. So that is my biggest qualm, I guess, about it. And that's kind of why I took a step back, but I'm not even looking. I think Andy Dalton is a serviceable backup quarterback. If you need a spot starter for a week or two, I trust him. He proved that last year. He can come in and start a game, Chad Henne type in Kansas City, and get you a win. Jake Plummer, guy will be on the practice squad. I ain't worried about it. But Chad, let us know what your grades are. We have 560 some people in here. Not any of you guys have given us a grade. So give us a grade on what you think of this room. Go ahead, Ricky.
Y'all both brought up a good point though, and it's kind of what I was alluding to as well. Is that the start of next season? That's what I'm really like keyed in on, man. I want to see them get off the blocks like hot, and they've got a chance to do it in Jacksonville. But I want to see Bryce if he comes out, man, and he has that confidence, and he continues to keep going up, dude. Opposing teams are in trouble because when he started getting confident, I know that they were playing Atlanta, and Atlanta sucks. Their defense is trash. But the game that he played the final week of football last season was one of the better performances that a Carolina quarterback has ever put on a football field. And we're talking about performances from Cam Newton, the NFL MVP. He did something that Cam Newton didn't do, right? Like this is a real talented #1 overall pick that a lot of people doubted, but he is aiming this season to remind every single person why he was a consensus #1 overall pick and in that year. And I know that it's convenient, man, to shit on him because he's small and he had an awful like 10 to 14 game stretch between like his week 4 rookie season to the first 2 of his sophomore year. This is a good football player, guys. And like he's a good quarterback. He's a leader. His team has bought into him. All of that off the field stuff really does matter, especially for a young team and a young player.
All right, let's go to the chat, and then we'll answer that question that I posed you guys. So hopefully you thought of something. But Riz, C+. All right.
Come on,
Not a
man.
Zach Plummer fan, huh?
Riz definitely wanted Anthony Richardson. I'll tell you that. No, Michael Cuddy, we appreciate you from Florida. Bryce will be a solid QB. We're not sure he'll ever match capital one of one. Still love the guy. James Cody, I believe we're a B+ right now. I also believe the running game and defense will dictate his success. C from Justin K. And Koopa Troopa. Is Koopa like, isn't there a character on
Mario Kart.
Mario
Super
Kart?
Mario.
Yeah, okay.
Super Mario.
I knew I wasn't making shit up.
Look how young y'all are. Y'all are talking about Mario Kart. That's an actual guy from Mario, Super Mario Brothers.
Same shit.
I mean, compared to the rest of the league, week 1 probably B-, a big boost because Andy Dalton is the backup.
A big boost because of Dalton. Man, it is crazy. I feel like there are still so many
Riz
fans.
is a Bryce guy. Okay. All right.
Are you? So just not a Plummer guy. Yeah, okay, I get it.
Well, let's ask this, okay? And I don't know if Ricky or Bryson wants to start here, but what does Bryce Young need to do this year to have a successful season? This could be statistically, this could be wins, this could be whatever you want it to be. But what do you think he needs to do in your mind for him to have a successful year?
Yeah, I'll start. I'm not going to do stats at this point. I think I would need a little bit more time to think about that, really think about it. I think Bryce Young just needs to continue to build off of what he did at the end of last season. You know, I think if he comes out, you know, we talked about it a little bit, but if he comes out versus Jacksonville and, you know, the couple games thereafter, and we see the same struggles that we saw in year 1 and the beginning of year 2, I think that's really concerning. And, you know, I'm going to be kind of leaning towards what Kurtz was talking about is like, okay, like what's going on at the beginning of years to where Bryce doesn't have this confidence and he's continuing to struggle. But I wholeheartedly believe that's not going to happen. You know, I think when you talk about the way players are talking about him in training or in minicamp and OTAs about how he's finally talking shit back to like JC Horn, like that confidence level of Bryce Young we haven't seen in Carolina. So I think he's continuing to build on that. Just taking steps forward, man. Just consistently being a quarterback that doesn't make mistakes, that's not going to hurt your team. If he's like the game manager style quarterback level, and you know you're leaning on a run game, and your defense is playing significantly better than they were last season, hopefully, you know I'm not mad at that. But I believe he has the ability to be an impact and be impactful to win games. And, you know, he showed that, like Curtis, you mentioned it when you were talking about him. When this guy has the ball in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go and we have a drive to potentially win the game or tie the game, my confidence in our ability to do that with Bryce Young at the helm is like, I'm just sitting back on the couch. I'm just waiting because I know it's going to happen.
Yep.
I know it's going to happen because Bryce is ice cold, man. So I think
got that clutch gene.
He really does. I think he's proven that without a doubt so far in his NFL career. So I think just continuing to take – I know it's kind of a broad statement, but just building off of what he did in the final 10 weeks of last season and being consistent and not having those ins and outs of like, okay, like there's a game with 15 passes, 30 incompletions, 2 interceptions, like continuing to build on the success that he had in the final 10 weeks. Not saying there can't be a bad game. Like, you know, quarterbacks have bad games. Patrick Mahomes has bad games. But just a general consensus of more consistency throughout a season. I think that's the next step for Bryce Young.
I want to see Bryce play better on schedule because a lot of what we saw and a lot of what we are kind of like going off of as far as like looking at projection, right, for Bryce was what he did under pressure, which, you know, hey, look, he's going to see pressure. They're going to keep blitzing him. But a lot of it was also like second play. That's what Canales calls it, where he's out and he's scrambling and he's creating off of that initial play. And I want to see that tighten up a little bit. Now, I think that some of that is the coaching. Some of that is the surroundings around him. And some of that is game situation, right? If this defense could take a step and Bryce is in different situations, I think you see a different Bryce as well, as far as like deciding when to attack, when to take the – it's like a game of golf, right, man? Like you got to decide when do you need to try to go for the green and when do you lay up and you take the smart shot. Like sometimes I think that Bryce is such a cerebral guy that he knows that he wants to lay up because he knows that he could get on the green and be in a really good place to tap it in. But he also looks at it and says, but we're down by 13. Like, I can't lay it up and go on an 8-minute drive here when there's 9 minutes left to go and we need 2 scores. And we got to stop it with defense. So the mental part of that, I think, can change with a better defense, better supporting cast, more confident coaching. For Bryce Young, I want to see consistency and accuracy to continue over the middle. I want to see deep passing improve. I want to see deep passing to the sidelines. That's what I want to see. I want to see him leading his receivers, creating that yak opportunity. I think that having T-Mac, getting Xavier Legette on more crossers and in-breaking type of routes, I think that could help a lot with that. I just think that for Bryce Young, man, seeing that confidence that Bryson just talked about, like, that is such a huge element for him. And he turned it on. He did it. James Cody brought up something in the chat that I wanted to touch on because it ties into what Bryson was saying and how I feel. Bryce needs to be a game-managing quarterback, not the stud. I think if he's Purdy, we're good. If he's got to be Cam, we're in trouble. So part of me agrees with that, James. Part of me thinks that, like, we're still doing this thing where we talk about Cam only because Cam was like the Superman for the Panthers. But there's a lot of quarterbacks in this league, like a Jalen Hurts, who I think has the same type of role that Bryce Young could have here. He's got talent around him, but if Jalen Hurts isn't sharp and Jalen Hurts isn't good and he's not making timely throws, that Eagles team is beatable. I mean, we saw that against them playing us last season, right? But when I look at Brock Purdy has to be pretty dang good, man. He just got, $270 million from the 49ers? He makes a lot of really big-time throws, but what he doesn't do extremely well is that clutch thing in the playoffs or when it's a big-time game. And so if Bryce Young can be Brock Purdy on schedule through three quarters, right? And then he still has that Bryce Young it factor to finish these games out and to win big games like Bryson was talking about. Dude, $270 million will look like a bargain for Bryce Young in 2 years if that's what we're paying him.
Amen. Well said. I kind of alluded to what I was going with the answer to this question, and Bryce Young needs to start off how he ended last year. We can't go into this 2-3 game stretch where he's throwing multiple picks and they're 0-2 or whatever the case may be. They need to start hot, and they need to win more than 6-7 games this year for me personally. And I think he's going to have a lot to do with that in that winning ability. I know the defense, we all hope they at least come out of the trenches of where they were last year, but that's never a guarantee either. But yeah, I mean, I think that's key. And then for me is Panthers haven't had a lot of games where they've led. And I need to see Bryce Young when they are in the winning corner, in the ring, carrying them to a victory and closing it out, not letting these teams creep back in and, push this game into overtime and then the Panthers squeak. No, he needs to finish games, close it out, and just beat these guys. And that's I think the next step too, is because Carolina has always been playing, it seems like these last 2 years, at least for him, is they've always been playing catch up, and he gets you back into the game. And then, they might crawl, scratch and, fight, and it'll be really close at the end, and then they end up losing. You're like, damn, they almost had it. When they have a lead, I want to see this guy lead this team to victories and not let these other teams crawl back into it. So I think that's the two biggest things for me. But I think for the start of the year, they need to start hot. They can't get into this rut they have the past 2 seasons. So I think that's big. I did like what Ricky said about Hurts, because I do think, and I kind of disagree with James, I do think Bryce Young showed at the end of the season he has this escapability, and he can turn it on to a whole nother level when he gets to that point and when he's comfortable. And I mean, he's sneaky good in certain circumstances where he's making guys miss. Go watch the Milton Williams missed tackle where he finds Legette on a 3rd down or 4th down. I think it might have been in that Eagles game. It was incredible.
Not just Milton Williams. It was Milton Williams and Josh Sweat.
And it was a layered throw. I mean, he was throwing it over a linebacker,
Yep.
trying to fit it in between a linebacker and a safety. I mean, that's
Beautiful.
the shit. Like,
Yep.
And I'm sorry, that's to a whole nother level. That's
Special.
Cam Newton-esque. I think that's sometimes even better than Cam Newton. I think this guy does have a very he's got a clutch gene. It's special. It really is. And he's already to that point. He's been through some of those experiences. But if he can get on the other side where they're having a lead and then closing those things out, I think that could be huge.
And to your point, Curtis, real quick about the lead, not only is it Bryce Young, performing and hopefully, to an ability that you're able to win that game, but it'll be interesting to see Dave Canales calling those plays in those situations with the lead.
Yep.
To put Bryce Young in that situation.
Territory.
That's a great point,
if is he a play caller that takes his foot off the gas and okay, we got a lead, let's play safe, or is he a play caller let's step on their throats, we got the lead, let's keep doing what we're doing. So that'll be really interesting to see with Dave Canales as well.
All right, let's go to backs here. And I think someone had mentioned Hubbard.
Damn, Curtis, you just copied my grades, dude. You just copy and paste my text message? Or?
No. Hey, man, this is one room I'm very confident in. You know that. I love Rico Dowdle. Yeah. But let's talk about the grades. I guess I'll start, and then we can kind of work around. And then you guys see that question up top, so start thinking about that. I think this is a really big group, and I don't think Chuba Hubbard gets enough credit across the league. I think he kind of gets shit on because he's in the Carolina backfield. But we got to remember this guy put up 1,000 yards last year. What was a 4th or 5th round pick out of Oklahoma State, and really took another step this past year in solidifying himself as the number 1 back on this team, and just grinded. I mean, this fan base was out on his ass. There was folks calling for his name. And he just kept grinding, staying after practice, hitting the jugs machine because people said he couldn't catch, me included at points. And he just kept grinding and showed last year. I mean, he made the moniker that Ricky created with Big League Chew. And he was a top 10 back last year. And he did an outstanding job, and not a lot of folks want to talk about him. And I get it. It's Carolina. They haven't had a winning season, but he grinded, he earned it. And then you go out and add another 1,000-yard back because you're concerned about Jonathan Brooks' injury. So you have two 2,000-yard backs that have similar playing styles. And then you go out and add another running back in the draft who, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the 4th-round picks in general, but a guy who gives you a different element, gives you a return ability for this team. I think this is a pretty damn deep room. And, oh, by the way, Jonathan Brooks is rehabbing and will be ready to go next year. So now you're looking at, I mean, Dowd will maybe be on the outs, and he was maybe a 1-year rental, but you're looking at Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks, who has an entirely different element to this running back room, plus ETN. I mean, that is stacked to the fucking brim with talent, I personally think. So, yeah, I'm high on this room. I like everything about it. I don't think Chuba Hubbard gets enough credit across the league. And he's one hell of a back, and he proved it this past season.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go. Guys, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but my God, was I wrong about Chuba Hubbard. Ricky, you weren't with us when I was in my era of wanting Chuba Hubbard off my team. And not seeing him in the backfield at all. And I'm proud to announce again for the 50th time that I am wrong. He's continued to take steps forward, and last season was proof, that this man has worked and worked and worked at his craft and has earned the right. Even going into last season, drafting a running back in the 2nd round doesn't, in my opinion, show that the front office has instilled a lot of confidence into you at your position. And Chuba Hubbard took that position last season and ran with it, literally. And left no doubt that he is the starting running back for the Carolina Panthers. And he is a game changer. I mean, he's not the most explosive threat, but my God, is he consistent. And, he's getting you 5, 6, 7 yards of carry in, carry out. He's improved catching the ball out of the backfield, hitting that jugs machine. And then you bring in a guy like Rico Dowdle, who we kind of shit on last year, but was a good player, just a Cowboy. So, of course, we're going to talk shit about a Cowboy.
You got to shit on him. He was the ops at that point.
Exactly, right? I mean, rightfully so. He's a Cowboy.
It was after that you were shitting on him. Quit trying to butter it up.
Keep on doing it because you loved him. You had a love affair with him while he was in the Bank of America with a star on his head.
I think Curtis wore a Rico Dowdle Cowboys jersey to that game. If I'm not
right. My Lord.
Exactly. Stop. Exactly.
You guys were haters. I talked
about high cowboy boots.
I might have to get a Hubbard jersey. That's a good point, Michael. I might have to do that this season. I think McMillan is my next jersey, but maybe a Hubbard jersey in the lineup coming soon. But you add Rico Dowdle to that room, another back with proven talent who diced up the Panthers when we played and really made me look stupid when I was talking about him leading up to that week. Yeah. So I think that he's a good change of pace, spell Chuba when he's tired, proven talent in that running back room. And then you add a rookie into there with ETN who has talent as well. Probably more of the home run threat in that backfield, ability to catch the ball in the backfield. I think there's just so much depth in this room that it's hard not to give him an A, man. It really is. Chuba's proven to be consistent, healthy on the field. Rico Dowdle, again, coming off a 1,000-yard season, and then you drafting and adding to that room. And then, Curtis, like you mentioned, you have Jonathan Brooks coming back next year. There's really no weakness in this room. I don't see any. So an A, I'm very comfortable giving.
Yeah, so for me, I almost went about it like what you guys were just talking about. Jonathan Brooks is rehabbing. He'll be here next year. He offers a different skill set. Chuba, Rico, terrific downhill runners, one-cut guys. Really good, but not necessarily home run hitter, explosive, take everything to the house, right? That's why I gave it B+, is because I think that dimension is missing still. Now, Trevor Etienne could fill a little bit of that. I don't foresee Trevor having a gigantic role on the offense in this first season. So really when I look at it, I think, look, swap Rico out with Jonathan Brooks in 2026, right? Like do this hypothetical. At that point, I'm giving it an A, A-, A+, whatever you want to do with that A, because then I think that vision that they had of having this grind you down, run into you instead of around you type of runner in Chuba Hubbard. But then you've got Jonathan Brooks that the minute that you're gassed and you're reaching for your water bottle, you got him coming in there at 6'1", 215 pounds with a little bit of shimmy and a lot of speed to make you try to chase after him. Good hands out of the backfield, good pass protector out of the backfield. Those are all things that I think are still missing a little bit. Now, Trevor Etienne, I'm excited about the possibility with him, but I take all of it a little bit with like a grain of salt when we talk about rookies, especially when they're going to be at least third on the depth chart, because the only way that he sees really significant action, in my opinion, on the offensive side is if there's an injury. And if there is an injury to Chuba or Rico Dowdle, that also takes away a really big dynamic of what gave them this B+ for me. Because having this very similar skill set and very similar approach that fits perfectly with your offensive line, that fits perfectly with the mentality of your play caller, and it fits really well with the rest of the team in the way that they're constructed and how you could take advantage of teams having to load up the box if you got these guys running terrors on them, right? I just think that when you lose one of them, you could be in trouble. So that makes me a little bit more nervous. I do take the injuries into account with running backs a little bit more than some other position groups, because running backs get smacked every single time they touch the damn ball, right? Like there are other guys, man, that can literally just run out of bounds after they catch it if they want to on a certain route. But a running back, man, I mean, you got guys chasing you from the minute you got it, man. It is, they're trying to smash. They're trying to get you down and they are trying to break your helmet. So I just, for me, very excited about it. I think everyone knows I'm a big Chuba Hubbard fan. I do like Rico Dowdle. I think that he's a genuine top 50 running back now. Curtis, you can say that. Top 25 running back. We can say that now. I'm all for bringing that bit back and raising it every single time and giving him his flowers as needed. But I was never going to do that to anybody that had a star on the top of their head. I will call CeeDee Lamb a CFL player if I have to, because I am not going to sit here and
Chat,
gloss up
they're trying to
anybody.
they're trying to backtrack now. It's all right.
Oh,
We
I'm
know
not
where
going to
they were
backtrack. What do you mean? No way, dude. Look, for the same reason that I'm going 17-0 for the Carolina Panthers is the same reason that I will never say that a Dallas Cowboy should have a fun time at Bank of America Stadium. There's already plenty of Cowboy fans that are stomping all over with their thigh-high boots in our stadium. I'm not going to sit there and cheer for their players, too. I'm sorry.
And chat, don't you forget Curtis wore a Rico Dowdle Cowboys jersey to that game. So.
I don't own one.
With a big old 20-gallon hat, too. Yep.
Well, let's go to the question. Ricky, we'll start with you. Bryson went with the last one. Do you think Hubbard and Dowdle are a top 5 running back duo in the NFL right now?
You know, man, I looked at it and I was sitting there and I was like looking at some of the numbers because it's funny, you know, I did like look at some of the things for these players, and Chuba Hubbard had 1,195 rushing yards last season. Rico Dowdle had 1,079. That's 2,274 total. That would have been in the top 5 when you talk about top running back duos. If you're talking about strictly running backs, right? Because like Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, I think would have qualified a bit higher. But like even when you talk about the Lions, right? That's who I thought of immediately when I think of like the top running back duo in the NFL right now.
Same.
Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. David Montgomery only had about 780 rushing yards last season. He played 14 games. So it's not like he missed a ton of action. Rico, I believe, started 15 games, played 16, but started 15. Chuba, we know, I think missed one at the end of the season or somewhere in the middle of it. I think he missed one game. Trevor Etienne, a little bit of a wild card, but that's not anything to do with the duo. So, yeah, can Chuba and Rico, at least statistically, right? Can they statistically put up a top 5 running back duo? In theory, I think they can. What I think will be their biggest hurdle would actually be music to a Carolina Panthers fan's ears will be if the passing game takes the next step and you don't have to rely on 1,000 yards for each running back. Now, you could still open it up. Now, you can talk about like a juggernaut offense. So if you're talking about like both getting 1,000 yards and Bryce throwing for 35 or 3,800, whatever it may be, it's possible, but it would be a real big swing. And I think it's more likely you see like a kind of David Montgomery type year out of Rico Dowdle, 700, 775 yards, somewhere in that range. And Chuba, I still think he cracks 1,000, man. I think that he's still the workhorse. Think they're going to be a fantastic duo, and I'm very excited about them.
All right, I'm gonna go before Bryson goes here. Yeah, I think statistically they should be slotted in the top 5 based off of last year. So if you're looking at that, I could see it. But yeah, Detroit came to mind for me. I even hate to admit this because I can't stand their fan base right now. Atlanta's got a pretty damn good duo if they know how to use them more, to be honest with you. I think Bijan is pretty damn special.
He's great. Yeah.
Algiers, he's pretty damn good too. Houston.
He's no Rico Dowdle.
If A.J. Dillon was healthy, I don't think he played. Or did they acquire him this current year?
Yeah, he was out all last year. The quad father. Yeah, he was out all last year.
But he was in Philly last year, right? Or no?
No, A.J. Dillon, okay. No. I think they just brought him in.
Okay, so that's one to watch. That would be one. But I think statistically, if you look across the board, I don't think they replicate that this year. I agree with you. I don't know if they get both 2,000. Just based off of the, who they brought in, they got T-Mac and everything else. I think you might see that the passing game take a step up, hopefully. So, but yeah, I think statistically, if you're going off of last year, I think no doubt, they're in that conversation for top 5. And I thought I saw someone post about trade bait. I do. I mean, I kind of agree with you. If they're rolling midseason, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's a reach.
Rico getting traded? If the Panthers are having a good year and you think they would trade him?
I don't know. Maybe.
Why would they trade him if they're having a good year?
If they need a corner.
But they're having a good year, and it's probably based heavily on their run game.
Yeah.
Hey, I've seen weirder shit happen. Okay. So
fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, I think overall, just going back to the question, I think no doubt if you go off of last year, they have to be in the conversation. I don't know if a lot of folks want to have that conversation because I don't think Chuba Hubbard gets enough credit. But statistically, hell yeah. I mean, you have a 2,000-yard backfield between those two. So, absolutely.
Yeah. For me, I think last season, I know at least Curtis and I, we were very kind of upset with Dave Canales and his play calling, like asking for them to continue to run the ball, run the ball, run the damn ball.
Ricky too on that.
Ricky too. Run the ball, run the ball. So I think Chuba could have gone for more than 1,100 yards last season if Dave Canales would have been consistent in saying what he was going to do going into that year. So, to me, for this question, I asked myself, is there anyone else going into this year that had two running backs go for 1,000 yards last season? On top of my head, I can't think of anyone. So when you add those two together in a backfield, I'm thinking, yeah, they could potentially be a top 5 running back duo in the NFL. I don't think that's very far of a reach to assume. So I think Chuba and Rico can do it. I agree with you guys, though. I think it's really heavily dependent on how Bryce Young plays, the play calling, where this offense kind of leans towards. And I believe Dave Canales, whether he says it or not, is more of a pass-first kind of play caller. And, I think that kind of hampers their ability to put up stats similar to, like, the Lions and David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. But, maybe that changes this year, and we're looking at one running back over 1,000 yards and another guy closer, 700, 800 yards. But I think they have the ability to do it. Now, there's a lot of circumstances surrounding them that might hamper that, but especially if Bryce Young takes that next step, I think we're not going to be asking them to run the ball very much if Bryce Young is playing like he was the last 10 weeks of last season, because he's going to be slicing and dicing. So they have the ability, yes. Will it happen for sure? I'm not 100%.
The hope is that they keep running the ball, at least because we have a lead, right?
Exactly. That's
you could still see a very balanced offense here. Like, I think even if Bryce is to take like that big step and be a terrific quarterback next season, still think they're going to run the ball a good amount. Like, the offensive line is built for it. Signing Rico Dowdle clearly shows you that they want to. It's also insulating Bryce a bit, right? Don't put so much on his shoulders that he almost feels like he has to take that step. Let him do it organically because he is there, right? So I still think they're going to run the ball. But Bryson, I think you nailed it. I just have a hard time seeing both of them get to 1,000, man.
I do want to mention for folks on Twitter that aren't on YouTube, it is the last call for the giveaway, so get those entries in. I do want to touch on one thing that we didn't talk about last week that I do think needs to be discussed, and that is Dave Canales. They did a chalk talk with PSL owners a couple of weeks ago. I'm really pissed I didn't get to go to that, but that's a whole nother conversation. But they had talked about basically Canales, Evero, and their offensive coordinators escaping me right now. Someone help me out.
Brad
Idzik. All three of them were up on stage talking to fans. And PNP went to this. Shout out to them, Panther Nation podcast. We appreciate them. They do some great stuff. So if you guys don't follow them on YouTube and Twitter, make sure you do, because they're great for this fan base and content creators. But they had posted something, and I thought it was interesting, and it makes you kind of step off the ledge a little bit. We all can be optimistic. We all saw Ricky's 17-0 and everything else, and I get it. Like, we're all optimistic this time of
Why
year.
you keep saying that's optimistic, man? That's realistic. We're 17-0. Right now we are undefeated, and we will be that way at least through August.
But Canales said, and PNP posted this, that Canales reminded the fans there that this team is very young. And I think that's interesting because he took a measured approach when asked what success looks like this year. I think he said to find our best. Evero said playoffs. And I can't remember what Idzik said off the top of my head.
Idzik said to take care of our own division.
Yes.
Yep.
So Canales definitely took a more measured approach, and then also made the comment, hey, this team is still young. And I think I just wanted to remind folks that, because I know a lot of us this time of year, we're optimistic. We think, the sky's the limit this next year with how they ended last year. But I think we also need to temper expectations a little bit, because they're going to be asking guys who are very young to step into roles that might not be ready to step into those roles yet, and just be ready for that. Now, I'm not saying they should not have a winning year, and they need to be competing for the division this year. I'm not saying that.
Excuse me.
But I just wanted to throw that out there and make sure people know that, because I know everyone is optimistic right now. So
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that sentiment. You got a quarterback going into his third year. When you talk about the team being very young, what are you talking about? The second-year wide receiver and the rookie wide receiver? Are you talking about the two rookies at the edge group? Like, what area of this team is very young and hasn't had a chance to get at least a year or two under their belt?
Defense.
Derek Brown, J.C. Horn.
Derek
Brown, safety room, yeah,
major injury and might not.
Trayvon Merrick. Those guys have been playing some ball though for some years, man.
It's not like this is a team full of rookies at multiple starting positions.
Well, and that second-year wide receiver is damn near 26.
That's a good point.
Defense, gentlemen.
Well, yeah, but our defense, really though, what you're talking about is the banking on the rookie edge players, right?
Well, and guys that have not played with each other too. They added a lot to that D line.
Yeah, now that's different, right? Like the continuity of this team, that absolutely is a new thing. But I think also, man, when you see some of these teams that just have a really good chemistry, right? Like the team is built the right way with personalities and with skill sets and things like that. It doesn't take that long for teams to gel and take a step together if it's built the right way. And I think what anyone who is really excited about this Panthers team and who is looking at it more so from what Bryson just said right there too, right? About like, I'm not necessarily agreeing with the sentiment of like hurry up and wait type of deal. Like,
and I'm not either. I don't want
No, I know.
Yeah,
I know. It was Canales that was basically hedging his bets there with saying that, or hedging the expectations, which I think is a smart thing from a head coaching standpoint, dude. I don't have beef with that, because he doesn't want everyone getting their head inflated coming off of a 4-13 season. You know what I mean? This was not a good football team last year. It was an even worse football team the year prior. So that's what he's saying, is that until you are a good football team, you shouldn't be expected to be a good football team. I understand that. I don't have a problem with that. But from a fan standpoint, I look at it and I say, look, I see what you did for the Washington Commanders last year in a jump back year. I saw what you did for the Houston Texans the year before that. I see what you could do for young, inexperienced, or unfamiliar teams. But I also see that what we did is we added purposeful things, and that our quarterback we believe in, and that we drafted a guy that a lot of people believe is a alpha as a wide receiver one that we have not had. All of those things make me feel like we should be extremely competitive at the bare minimum.
All right. Before we get to Cuddy quickly, I'm sorry. We'll get to this. We'll go to Cuddy, and then we're going to do the drawing, and then we're going to get the hell out of here because I still need to eat. So Zachary Hernandez, and this was a point that was brought up earlier today. I saw on Twitter, and folks, I also thought he says defense can't be worse than last year. I also thought the offense wasn't going to be bad last year, and look what happened. So you just never know. Like, we've been to this spot before, so I don't know if you can truly see this. Like, I hope we all think that defense is going to be better. It should be. They've added pieces, they drafted guys, but we've seen some crazy shit here in Carolina. So I just wanted to make that a point. Michael Cuddy, with so many young wide receivers, do y'all think that Thielen and Renfro could limit the ability of the younger players from developing, getting game time, or getting play time? $5. So I had literally, you can probably hear this, I'm literally on like the last drop of this beer.
I'm not, Michael. I'll have an entire swig of beer for you.
Ricky's
I bring my son's
I can't say what I want to say.
I bring my son's lunchbox back here full of beer for me. I'm a real adult. Okay.
He's putzing around with his beer. He's putzing around. The guy who's got we haven't even talked about the shower beer, by the way. But anyway, you've been putzing with that. Quit nursing the damn beer and drink it, Ricky.
Call the milkman. He's milking it.
But let's answer the question here, and then we'll go to the drawing. Who wants to answer it?
Yeah,
you're a Renfro guy. Let's go, Bryson.
Renfro is a bottom of the lineup receiver. You know, if he makes the team, which I believe he's going to, he's your 6th or 7th receiver in this room. I don't think he really factors into that at all. And then Thielen is just, you know, that comfort blanket for Bryce Young. So I don't think he's really interfering with anything. I think he's there for Bryce Young's development. Bryce Young's still going to throw passes to Xavier Legette. He's still going to throw passes to T-Mac. He's still going to throw passes to Jaylen Coker. But I think primarily you're worried about the development of your franchise quarterback over potential wide receivers. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the NFL. So you want to put your quarterback in the best position to succeed. And having Thielen on the field, we have seen time in and time out. I know Curtis has raised kind of suspicions of Thielen being the go-to for Bryce Young and not really looking at the rest of the field, which has been valid. But I think just continuing to help that quarterback, regardless of what happens to the other people, maybe in the wide receiver room or tight end room or whatever, is the most important thing. But I don't think it's like if Thielen's on the field, you know, throw away Xavier Legette's progress. Like he's not going to progress from year 1 to year 2. I don't think that's the route that they're going. I don't think that's what's going to happen because I think Bryce Young has shown the ability to distribute the ball to multiple different receivers and continue to kind of spread the wealth and you know, help those guys develop as well. So no, I don't think it really kind of interferes with any of the development of those guys.
Ricky, real quick.
Yeah, real fast. If it is interfering with the development and playing time of guys like Xavier Legette, Tetero McMillan, Jaylen Coker, the younger guys, it is because they cannot outplay these older guys. So I don't see this as an issue at all. I think that a good NFL team has a deep, talented NFL roster, and we have not had that for a really long time. If we are bitching in the middle of the year because Xavier Legette is not seeing as many looks as Adam Thielen, it is because Xavier Legette has not bypassed Adam Thielen. And that is just the plain cold hard facts of it. If Hunter Renfro is keeping Jimmy Horn Jr. off of the field, it ain't because that's what Canales wants. Canales wants speed, and he would beg for Jimmy Horn Jr. to be out there with his speed. But if he's not ready and he's not a reliable pass catcher for Bryce Young, no, you're going to put a guy out there who can catch the football and who can get open. So anyone that has a problem with the other guys playing, it is because the younger guys have not taken that advantage.
And in short, it's an indictment of their play. But okay, let's go to the giveaway.
Yeah.
If you want to pull that up. So we appreciate everyone tuning in. This is for the Tetero McMillan portrait that Joe Bello has created. It's sold out right now. So this is some insider shit here that Ricky's got going for y'all.
Insider shit. All right, so look, y'all can see the wheel, right? We've got 57 entries. That's great, man. Like y'all did well. Appreciate all the super chats. They got you the 5 entries. That was awesome tonight. We're gonna go ahead and spin this thing. It does the really cool sounds and all that kind of stuff. So we'll click the spin right now. Here we go. Good luck, guys. Look at that.
Oh, Michael Cuddy.
Michael Cuddy.
Wow.
Oh, that is awesome. Hey, congrats to everyone who's participated. Cuddy, I do not have your address, so please send that to me on Twitter, and I'll get that out to you. And we're going to be shipping out the I apologize, I'm late on this. Nathaniel's probably killing me right now. I told him I'd send it out by the end of last week, but we are getting that for Panthers fan only shirt out. It's shipping out tomorrow.
Hey, Cuddy, whatever you do, I'm assuming you guys know Cuddy the way you were talking about him. Make sure, Cuddy, you get him that address and tell him to send it to me ASAP, because I will not dilly-dally the way that he does. I will go to the post office and I will get this thing out for you immediately, man, and you'll have it next week.
Yes. Ricky running his mouth.
Yeah, I always do that, man. That's what I'm best at. But hey, I do want to say I appreciate everyone's involvement on these giveaway things. And this isn't any kind of like ploy. We do want to get our subscribers up. We want to hit that 1,000 mark. because that helps us get our reach out there. That helps us find better footing in the algorithm to get more people to watch our content. And the more people that watch our content, the more ability we have of doing cool things for our fans. The three of us have talked about this. We just want to make really cool shit for Panthers fans, man. Like, because we're Panthers fans. I want to give a bunch of stuff away. I want to have really cool guests. I want to have really fun conversations. I want to drink beer with my buddies. The more that we get everyone involved and build this thing up, man, the better we're going to make this for everybody. So I appreciate everyone for joining in tonight and doing this giveaway. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what Ricky said. We appreciate you guys. I know it's 11 o'clock. We didn't expect these episodes, these next couple of weeks to be long, but here we are because I like to drag shit out and make sure we fit everything in. But we're 2 hours in, almost are over 650 listening, and we don't take this shit lightly. We don't. I seriously appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in, listening to our tipsy asses or drunk asses, whatever it is on the day, talk Panthers football, and we love doing it. We love catching up and, talking to you guys and interacting with the chat and the super chat as well. So we appreciate every single one of you guys, and hopefully, you guys can appreciate the giveaways we do in the future, because I know they're going to be bigger and better than ever once we hit that 1,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. So again, goal is training camp. I want to get there by then. I know we will do it, but keep tuning in to us. Keep, following us on Twitter, listening, whether you're on YouTube or you listen to us from the beginning on Spotify or Apple Podcast or iHeartRadio, wherever you guys are tuning in. We appreciate every single one of you, and we will keep it up. Again, we're back next week. Alex tunes in right at the last second. We appreciate him circling back. Bryson, anything you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow is Juneteenth, so I want to say happy Juneteenth to everyone. I think it's important to continue to celebrate these holidays, even if things in the political climate don't really support it. I celebrate, and I want to say happy Juneteenth to everyone tomorrow. People that are listening, maybe in their car. That's the last thing I want to say.
Good on you, man. Way to leave your mark.
Thanks, man.
We're going to end it there. That was perfect. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back next week. We will go wide receivers and tight ends on the position breakdown. And we'll break that down. And then obviously anything that comes out. And maybe Carolina's, looking at either a backup corner or safety at that point, or maybe it's too early. We'll see. But until then, keep pounding.